Well, guys, we're finally 10 days and 3 months away from the start of college football. And this is a very hard time for college football fans because we have to wait. But for actual college football programs, this is a very important time because they're worrying about the transfer portal right now, trying to get the last transfers in, trying to prevent people from entering the transfer portal, and they've just played their last spring games, and they're not going to get to play on a football field until August. So at this moment in time, it's important to hit the weight room, hit the workshop, get out on the field, and see how you can play as a team. This is a very, very important time for any college football program. So with this out of the way, going forward, I wanted to do this little checkpoint with the top 10 college quarterbacks going into 2023. So I'm going to have an honorable mentions list, but just as a little disclaimer, for this list, no freshmen. I didn't want to include anybody straight out of high school. And for example, Nico Iamaleava out of Tennessee. Now, there's a just for me to brag on Nico for a minute. He is incredible. He is an amazing kid, and I say kid, but he plays like a grown man. He goes out there from his tape. I usually don't say hype up a freshman quarterback like this. I usually don't. Usually I like to wait until they get some reps in during a game, see how they actually play. But watching this guy's tape, watching him play volleyball. He played high school competitive volleyball, and he intends to play for Tennessee's men's volleyball team. And he jumps insane. He's incredibly athletic, and he's just going to be a phenom. He's going to be incredible at Tennessee. It's tough to see if he gets the starting job just because his competition is Joe Milton, who's very beloved there. He has a lot of support, and he's been waiting. It's his time, and it's interesting to see if he'll get the job. Personally, although I just spoke the world of him, I don't think he will. I think he's going to sit a year and then he'll start. But with that out of the way, with that little side tangent, what are my honorable mentions? And I'm just going to do these rapid fire. Sorry if you wanted me to go for a long time about these guys. They're just very quick. These are great quarterbacks, and they could surprise me. But they're still great. They're still going to do good. But I don't think they're not in the top 10, or at least my top 10. Up first, Cam Rising out of Utah had a solid year last year. Had an even better year the year before. Why didn't I put him on this list? Well, I just needed to see a little bit more. He was good, but not great. He didn't have that it factor, and I was really searching for a player who could turn around a team season. And that's the same reason I didn't put in my list Michael Pratt out of Tulane. And a lot of people have been putting Tulane as a dark horse, but I just needed to see more. I don't think Tulane's going to surprise the college football world because of Michael Pratt, you know? And then the next one is Quinn Ewers out of Texas. I just needed to see more, you know? Arch Manning, number one recruit, or number two recruit, depending on the site that you use. But for the most part, the number one recruit is at Texas. He's pretty much going to have the backup job behind Quinn Ewers. He could, with a threat right behind him in Arch Manning, this could power him up, get him hyped up for the upcoming year, or it could do the opposite. Having somebody split the reps with you and threaten your starting position, that could do a number for a quarterback. And so I was hesitant to put him on the list. And plus, I needed to see more. He got injured last year. That's the reason I didn't put him on the list. Next is Devin Leary, out of NC State, but transferred to Kentucky. That's also one of the reasons I didn't put him on here. New environment, new team. There's too many questions there. I loved him last year. He was a little bit hiccupy, but I love his game because he plays exactly like Will Levis, who plays exactly like Josh Allen, and that's the type of quarterback play I love to see. I love a guy who will throw down his shoulders and try and fight for every yard he can get. And next is Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. Similar reason to Devin Leary. He's transferring from Jackson State, so he hasn't played that much. He hasn't played any collegiate D1, Power 5 ball. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. He'll either be boom or he'll be bust. So it's going to be tough to predict. So that's why I didn't want to put him on this list. Next is Cade Klubnik. People have been speaking the world of him, and he played great at the end of the year. But as we've seen, even though he played good against against Tennessee in the Orange Bowl, he didn't have his best game. Like, he played good, had decent enough stats, but they still lost the game for 14-31. He was not the reason they won the game. And it seemed like Tennessee's defense, who wasn't the best defense in the world, seemed to be able to read Cade Klubnik. Then next is J.J. McCarthy. And for a similar reason to Cade Klubnik, is he looked ugly in their last game of the year. And when you come into the year with bad expectations, with the weight of an embarrassing loss on your shoulders, that can affect you. And I see it affecting J.J. McCarthy. I know he had to fight for the starting role last year, and that boosted his mentality going forward, but he doesn't have that boost. Now he just has pressure, and that pressure to live up to, it's going to affect him. And yeah, that's my honorable mentions list. Now, with that out of the way, the top 10 list. Number 10, Joe Milton, the man of the hour, out of Tennessee. He's an upcoming redshirt super senior, so he's been in college football for a while. Last year, after Hendon Hooker went down, he threw for 971 yards, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions over 4 games. Now that's a pretty good stat. That is not just pretty good, but that's a great stat line for just 4 games. And that's exactly why I had him in here. Although that's a small spread, he's just an athletic freak. He has an amazing arm. He can roll out of the pocket. He can thread the needle, and he can use his legs. So that's the whole reason I have him at number 10. And plus, Tennessee's cooking up something. Tennessee, he has the weapons. And that's another reason that I just need to go ahead and clarify, is that a lot of these people on these lists, not only is it their play that puts them on this top 10 list, but it's who's around them. And next, number 9, Spencer Rattler for South Carolina. He's an upcoming redshirt senior, so once again, experience. And last year he threw for 326 yards, 18 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, and he played all 12 games of the year. Now, I know those 12 interceptions, that doesn't look good. That averages as 1 interception per game. But if you saw him play against Clemson, Tennessee, and then their bowl game against Notre Dame, all high-caliber opponents, and even though they lost to Notre Dame, he still played lights out in every game. If he plays the way he did against Clemson, Notre Dame, and Tennessee, South Carolina, they're going to be scary. They will be scary if Spencer Rattler plays up to his potential. Beamer ball, hop on the Beamer bus, because South Carolina, they have dark horse potential. And it all depends on Spencer Rattler and how he plays. And it's going to be tough. The SEC East is loaded. That's the thing, is even if South Carolina is great, they still might finish 7-5, because that's how good that's how amazing, rather, the SEC East is. Because you have teams like Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and Kentucky, all who have potential to be dark horse teams themselves. Next on the list, number 8, Jaden Daniels out of LSU, a senior, transferred from ASU just 2 years ago. Last year, threw for 2,913 yards, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Last year, the whole reason that he's known is A, he doesn't throw interceptions. Only threw 3 interceptions last year, played every game. So he's rarely going to make mistakes. But the big reason he's known is for beating Alabama. And that's basically it. I feel like last year's LSU team was a little bit overhyped after they beat Alabama, and they got humbled in the SEC championship. But so there's a little bit of a worry going into going into this year with LSU. So I have a little bit of a bone to pick with Brian Kelly. I feel like under Ed Orgeron, after the 2019 championship year, their offense got stale and repetitive, and nothing really changed. And I expected Brian Kelly to come in there and change everything. But nothing really did. That's the thing. If the play calling was the same, really stale, repetitive. But here's the thing. Although it's stale and repetitive, when you have somebody like Jaden Daniels or Joe Burrow, not saying Jaden Daniels is exactly like Joe Burrow, but a playmaker type quarterback who can elevate your offense from a 5 to a 9 or a 10 just by being on the field. That's the Jaden Daniels effect. We saw it last year, and even if Brian Kelly comes out here with the same offensive game plan, same stale offense, he is still going to produce, and that's the whole reason he's on this list. Because they're getting better recruits and a way better defense, and that's to the credit of Brian Kelly. Even though I just talked bad about him, he's still a great recruiter and still great when it comes to producing a high-caliber defense. That's number 8, and moving on to number 7, KJ Jefferson out of Arkansas. Upcoming redshirt senior. Notice the theme here. Most of these guys, they've been at their schools for a while. Either that or they've been playing college football for a while. And that's something we don't really see, like Bryce Young was a junior last year. Number 1 overall pick this year, actually. Gosh, time seems to flow all together, doesn't it? So KJ Jefferson threw for 2,648 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That is a really solid year. Won the AutoZone Liberty Bowl MVP, had his best year, and even more so played every single game. We haven't seen that from KJ Jefferson. Usually he gets bit by the injury bug and he stumbles through. But this year, he stayed healthy, and that's amazing to see. And if he stays healthy this year, in his last year, they will produce. And he will produce, and he's going to put the college football world on notice if he stays healthy. And they have, once again, they have potential to be a dark horse team. And that's another thing, is these guys can elevate college football teams. And that's what KJ Jefferson does. He has that Cam Newton-type build. He's a tall... he's basically a tall pocket passer who can also run the ball. He's scary. If he's firing all cylinders, it's hard to stop him. Number 6, Grayson McCall out of Coastal Carolina. Upcoming redshirt senior. Entered the portal for a second, but then returned to Coastal Carolina. Last year, he had 2,700 yards passing and 24 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. Now, I know that 2,700 passing yards might seem a little lackluster when you compare it to these other guys, especially since he's at number 6. But you have to remember, this guy's at Coastal Carolina, so he doesn't have the best weapons. But Coastal Carolina has 2 3-star wide receivers coming in. And on top of that, they have, he's been there for a while. McCall's been there for a while, and they have a new head coach coming in. I think with a new head coach, a new play caller in town, I think that Coastal Carolina is going to transform their offense. And McCall, especially after last year being a little bit of a disappointment, they were undefeated for a long time, but then finished winning 3 out of 4 games, losing 3 out of 4 games rather. Affected this Coastal Carolina team. It might have affected Grayson McCall, but the whole reason he's up here is they're improving on offense. They have a new play caller coming in, and last year he threw only 2 interceptions. So if you thought Jaden Daniels minimized mistakes, Grayson McCall is the same way. He rarely throws an interception, and that's a big reason he's up here. So Coastal Carolina, improved schedule, easier, and more weapons, and an innovative offense. I'll take that all day. Number 5, Drake May out of North Carolina. Upcoming redshirt sophomore, the youngest guy on this list. And he's getting draft buzz. Everybody, I saw a report that was said if Drake May was in this draft this past year, he would have been a first-round pick. And that's all to the credit of Drake May, because a lot of people see him and they think Justin Herbert, who now plays for the LA Chargers, but out of Oregon. And I see it. He threw last year for 4,321 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Now that is an elite stat line. He's able to throw the ball, able to run the ball, lengthy, refuses to go down in the pocket, and most importantly, he makes good decisions. North Carolina, they love to throw the ball, and only 7 interceptions on the amount of splits that he has between passes and completions. Yeah, it shows how good Drake May is at making decisions. And that's why he's on the number 5 list, because he's young and he has all the talent in the world. Next, number 4, Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington, upcoming redshirt super senior, transfer from Indiana. And last year threw for 4,641 yards, 31 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. That was, once again, an amazing stat line. And it shows why he is on this list and deserves this number 4 spot, because he throws the ball incredibly. He has an amazing arm, but once again, and this is important when it comes to being on this list, is being able to threaten you in the air and on the ground. And that's exactly what he does time in and time out. And the expectation for this Washington team and Michael Penix Jr. is the Rose Bowl. There's no exception. The Pac-12 this year, and what might be the last year that the Pac-12 is great with USC and UCLA leaving, the Washington, they need to make some moves, because there are some powerhouses in the Pac-12. This is going to be the best Pac-12 we've seen since probably 2014 when Oregon went to the national championship. Think about it. You got USC, who is loaded, Oregon, who's loaded, Oregon State, who has DJ Uiagalelei, who's a wild card, Washington, who's loaded, Washington State, which has made some strides, and then you have tons of other question marks like Arizona, who made some moves last year. It's going to be scary. And yeah, UCLA, who had a surprising year last year. I wasn't expecting them to do as good as they did. Kind of expected them to drop off, but kind of surprised everybody. But now moving on to the list, that's an entirely different recording altogether, is another Pac-12 quarterback, Bo Nix out of Oregon. Upcoming super senior. Last year threw 3,593 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Once again, good split. Missed 1 game last year, so his stats could have been even better. And he had an ugly game against Georgia. 3 of those interceptions came from that Georgia game. So, in all reality, that's 3,500 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, minus that Georgia game. So, minus 2 games that he played. So, the whole reason that he's on here is, once again, he proved he can play at an elite level. But I thought about putting him at maybe that 1 or 2 spot. But once again, why I didn't put him there is that Georgia game. And that's forever going to haunt his stock. Is he was embarrassed. That is plain and simple. He went into Atlanta and he played one of the worst performances I've seen from a college quarterback in a long time. Especially a capable college quarterback. Because we all know Bo Nix can be good. Look at what he did last year in Auburn. He was a good college quarterback. And then he just had an awful performance. But what made me put him at this 3 spot and not cause him to drop is what he did after that Georgia game. When he was faced with adversity, he recovered and stabilized, and he had a good year. And that's what you need from a quarterback. So that Georgia game, although it affected me from moving him forward, what I did after it cemented him in this 3rd slot. And the expectation for Oregon this coming year kind of conflicts with Washington's. Beat Washington, beat USC, win the Pac-12, go to the Rose Bowl, or go to the college football playoffs. But if I was Oregon, I would much rather take going to the college football playoffs. But that's just me. I don't know what Oregon wants to do. Next is number 2, Jordan Travis out of Florida State. He's an upcoming redshirt super senior, which honestly to me was shocking. I didn't know. I thought this guy was on the younger side, but he's a redshirt super senior. He threw for 3,214 yards last year, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now I know that isn't as good as Penix or Nix or even the guy at the number 1 list, who I can pretty much guarantee y'all know who it is. But with that, I still want to keep it a little bit secrecy, get a little dramatic about it. But Jordan Travis, although he doesn't have the stats that the other guys have, he does have the easiest route for his team to go to the college football playoffs, and he probably has the best team in his conference, the ACC. It's between them and Clemson, and he has the easiest route, meaning if Florida State, their 2 hiccups this year is Clemson and LSU. If they beat those 2 teams, they're going to the college football playoffs. But even if they beat one of those teams, they're probably going to the college football playoffs. If they beat one of those teams, then win out. That's what I mean. If they beat one of those teams and lose to one and then win out, they're going to the college football playoffs. That's all Florida State needs to do. And that's why he's on this list, because he's an amazing quarterback. He proved to be good last year. He has more weapons coming in. He had more practice this past year, and he's going to get to, he's improved every year he's played under Mike Norvell. So the expectation going forward is for Florida State to go to the college football playoffs. And I'm going to do a recording a little bit later on about what I think is going to happen this next year. And so, yeah, that's where that will come in. But the expectation for Florida State is go to the college football playoffs, beat Clemson, and beat LSU. First game of the year. So with that out of the way, let's cut to the chase. Who is number 1? Well, you pretty much could guess. Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner out of USC. An upcoming junior, threw for 4,537 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So you can pretty much guess. Reigning Heisman Trophy winner. He's the best quarterback in college football. And the expectations for him, go to the Natty and repeat as win the Pac-12 and repeat as the Heisman Trophy winner. That's it. And if you want to know why he is the best college quarterback, well, let me put it like this. This year, a junior was drafted with the number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young. You know why? Because he showed flashes in college. He showed improvement every year. And the same thing goes for Caleb Williams. He's a junior in college. He's shown improvement every year. And he's probably going to be the number 1 draft pick this next year, because he shows a similar amount of improvement and he has this similar amount of hype that Bryce Young did. And he's improved every year. We've seen it. It's crazy to think that his college career is almost over, that this is most likely his last year, probably going to get drafted. I will go ahead and say, barring any disastrous injury, which obviously we hope doesn't happen, he's going to get drafted, and he's probably going to start in the NFL. So out of all these guys, and that's another reason that this guy's number 1. Out of all these guys on this list, who do I think is probably going to start who could probably start in the NFL right now? I think it's Caleb Williams. He just has that it factor about him. Now, there's some that I could 50-50, but if I had to bet my life on one of these guys winning an NFL game, it would be Caleb Williams. And at the end of the day, that's basically it. Those are the top quarterbacks going into 2023. I'm interested to see your thoughts. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I mean, it's kind of too early to tell. Obviously, a lot still go on. We still got some summer camps, got some before season practices to look at. But I'm excited for college football. This is going to be a crazy year. And yeah, that's what I got to say. Let me know your thoughts.